type in a formula, x tilde year, which is saying that x is predicted by year, or x is the y-axis, year is the x-axis, and the data, those variables are coming from a data frame. In this case, metals by year is the name of the data frame. But I can add extra things, such as a y limit. So if I want to have 0 as the limit instead of what it's defaulted to, which is around 40, I can have a y label. I can change the box type so that this upper section disappears. It looks more like an L-shaped box, and I can add a main title. So if I run that, we can have a little look and see that we've taken off some elements of the box, we've added some nicer Y labels, we've got a main title, and there are a number of other things we could do to refine that plot, but you get a sense. If you want to know more about the types of options available, you could easily type in question plot, i.e. Give me some help on plot, and that will pull up in a browser the some of the options within plot. You can also check out plot.default, lots of options there, and also the par command for graphics parameters, par for parameters, is also quite good. Okay, so moving along, we've answered the question that yes, the number of Olympic medals increases over time. We could now ask another question: how does the amount of medals awarded to males and females change over time? In other words, with the increasing role of women in sport, perhaps we would see this manifested in Olympic medals with greater involvement of women relative to men over time. So how could we do that? Well, there's probably a number of ways we could get the data and then be able to plot it. So let's have a look here. What I'm doing is similar to before. I'm using the aggregate function to apply a function length to the variable medals year for each set of indices. Now I have two variables defining indices, year and event.gender. So that will create a number of medals 1 for each combination of year and gender. So if I run that, and then we could have a little look at the structure, medals by year by gender. We see they've got 60 observations, 3 variables. But if you were to have a quick look at that, at event.gender, we'd see that we actually have a number of X's, which represent the, I guess, events where both males and females are involved. So we can exclude them with this function here. So what this says is subset the medals by year by gender data frame by taking all the rows where the event.gender does not equal X. So that's what I've just done there. So now if I were to repeat that line, we see that yes, there's only males and women, females and women. Okay. Now let's produce a plot to try and answer our question whether the relative proportion of males and females has changed over time in the medal tallies, and thereby indicating the number of, I guess, sports that have been available for men and women to win medals. This function here is very similar to before, except we're going to have to plot males and females on the same plot. Now there are a number of ways to do this, but the way I've done it here is to first plot the males and then add the females into the data. I did this to allow me to use various plotting characters. So specifically, instead of using the main data frame medals by year by gender, I'm subsetting it to take only those ones where the event.gender equals male. And I've got the standard Y limit, the labels and the boxes types and the main title. The main two things here that I have a plotting character M for male and I'm using blue for boys to make it perhaps more intuitive. So if I run those lines of code, we get a plot like this, where each of the M's represents the number of medals won by men in that Olympic year. Now that's fine, that's showing a similar trend to what we saw before. What about the women? How can we add them? So to do that, I chose to use the points function, which adds points to the plot. Yeah, that's what it does. So what I need to tell it is here, I need to tell it the X points and the Y points. So the X points are going to be the years for women, and the Y points are going to be the medal counts for women, i.e. where event.gender equals women. And I've chosen a color red, a little bit like blue is for boys, pink is for girls, to make it easy, plotting character of F for female. So if I Control R, run that, we can see the men and women plotted on the same plot. And you can get a sense of actually how the base graphics, which are the plot and the points functions, operate as sort of layering points and lines and graphics and axes on top of each other. The analogy of a paintbrush is often used to describe this feature. And a little bit of interpretation, we can see here that over time the number of female medals has certainly increased in a similar way to men, but the gap has certainly closed over the years in percentage terms and to some extent also in absolute terms. Okay, so now have a look at perhaps some other stuff. Perhaps we could follow this up with not just a graph, but some tables of data. So we could say, well, what's the proportion of females relative to males? And so what we're seeing here is, well, the proportion of female medals in any given year is, well, it's the number of medals won by women over the total number of medals won. So this is perhaps not the neatest way of doing this, but what I've got here is women's medals over women's plus men's medals. I thought maybe to pretty up this table, because if we actually print that, it's not very user-friendly. So I thought I'd round it to a slightly more friendly style. And then perhaps we can add the year in a format to make it easy to view. So using the column bind function to add a year variable and this proportion female variable as well. So now we have a nice table which we could copy into something or save it for a report perhaps. And so we can see in precise numeric terms the proportion of medals won by female, and we can see how it's going up and, dare I say, approaching the equality mark of 50% from a very low starting point of 7% in 1924. Okay. Perhaps another interesting question we could explore is which countries have won the most medals? And so how might we do that? Well, we have this medals knock variable, and you can see the raw data, their country codes, 3-letter country codes, and so we could produce a table